Have you ever stopped and wondered, how do you actually build a society that lasts, not just for a few decades, but for thousands of years? Well, today, we're cracking open an ancient text that claims to be the blueprint for exactly that. We're going to walk through Leviticus chapter 18, verse by incredible verse, and see how it lays out the moral architecture for a brand new nation. This isn't just some old, dusty history lesson. This is a deep dive. Let's get into it.
And that's really the core question, right? For a minute, let's forget all the politics and economics. This is about something more fundamental: survival, identity, and building a culture that is strong enough to actually endure. And Leviticus 18 gives a pretty high-stakes answer. It basically says a society's survival is directly tied to its moral and sexual ethics. A pretty radical idea both back then and, even now. Okay, so let's set the scene here. God is speaking to Moses. The people of Israel, they're at this massive fork in the road. They have just left one incredibly powerful culture, Egypt, and they're about to walk right into another one, Canaan. This is their moment to decide who they're going to be. Now, what's so interesting here in verses 1 through 4 is just how clearly this choice is laid out. It's basically a declaration of moral independence. It says, look, you are not going to live like you did back in Egypt, and you're not going to adopt the ways of the people in Canaan. No. You are going to forge a completely new identity, a third way. And then you get verse 5, which is the core principle of the whole chapter. This isn't just about following rules for the sake of rules. The text frames this as the very source of life itself. The idea is that obeying this blueprint isn't some heavy burden. It's the key to national survival. It's a promise. Live this way and you will truly live. So now we get into the nitty-gritty, and we see how this blueprint starts to get built. And it begins at the absolute foundation of any society, the immediate family. These first laws draw a series of protective lines around the closest, most intimate relationships. Verse 6 kicks things off with a big, overarching rule. It's like a glowing, protective circle is being drawn around the entire family tree, defining it as a sacred space. Then, verse 7 gets really specific. It focuses on the bond between a son and his mother. You can almost see the relationship between a father and mother as this locked, sacred room. And this law says that door must never be forced open. It's the cornerstone of the whole family. Verse 8 just doubles down on this, protecting that parental bond even further. It's like a shield just appears over the father's marriage, protecting it from the inside. Then verse 9 draws this bright red line. Imagine a huge stop sign popping up between a brother and a sister. And verse 10 pushes that protection down through the generations. Another stop sign, this time placed over the grandchildren. These are absolute, non-negotiable boundaries. And verse 11 is all about closing any potential loopholes. That same big stop sign we just saw, well, now it's made crystal clear that it applies to half-siblings too. The message is simple. The protective boundary around siblings is absolute. It's all about ensuring clarity and safety inside the family. Okay, so we've secured the core family. Now the blueprint starts to zoom out. We're going to see these same principles, protection, order, respect, get applied to the next ring of relationships, the extended family. This is where the social fabric really starts getting woven together. So first up in verse 12, we're looking at the father's side of the family. Go back to that family tree in your mind. The line connecting you to your aunt on your dad's side suddenly turns into a solid wall of granite. You can't cross it. Then verse 13 does the exact same thing for your mother's sister. Another granite wall slams into place. This is all about protecting the generational structure, making sure roles in the family don't get confused. And this is where you see how cleverly this is all put together. Verses 14 through 16 are all about protecting existing marriages within the larger clan. So for verse 14, you can see a protective shield pop up around your uncle's marriage. For verse 15, that same shield appears, but this time it's around your own son's marriage. And in verse 16, it's around your brother's. The point is, these bonds are sacred and off limits, because if you violate them, the whole social safety net starts to unravel. Now, verse 17 is all about protecting the women across generations. Imagine a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter all linked together by this chain of respect that can't be broken by a single man's marriage choices. And verse 18 is designed to prevent total chaos within a single household. You can just picture two sisters and a solid protective barrier appearing between them so they can't become rival wives. It's a rule meant to preserve harmony. All right, so the blueprint is zooming out again. We've gone from the immediate family to the extended family, and now we're establishing rules for the entire community. And we're going to see that same logic of order, respect, and clear boundaries applied to the whole of society.
So, verse 19 is really about a boundary of respect. During her cycle, a woman was considered ceremonially unclean. This isn't about hygiene, it's about ritual purity. So this law was in a way protecting her. Then verse 20 draws a very clear social line. It's like seeing your neighbor's house and then a bright, clear fence just appears around it. That fence is a symbol of their marriage, and respecting it is a cornerstone of trust in the community.
Okay, now verse 21. This is one of the most intense warnings in the entire chapter. This is a complete, total, absolute rejection of a horrifying practice that was common in the cultures around them. This is a command to protect the most vulnerable people of all, the children. And to really get the gravity of this, you have to know who Molech was. This was a god to whom people would literally sacrifice their own children by fire. So when the text forbids this, it's drawing the starkest, boldest line possible between its own values and the detestable customs of its neighbors. And finally, we get to verses 22 and 23, which establish the ultimate boundaries that define human relationships and order in this blueprint. Verse 22 prohibits same-sex relations, and verse 23 prohibits bestiality. These are basically the final lines drawn in the sand, meant to distinguish this new society from what it saw as the chaos and moral confusion all around it. And now we've arrived at the dramatic conclusion. The whole blueprint has been laid out, piece by piece. But what happens if people ignore it? Well, the consequences, we're told, aren't just social, oh no, they're cosmic. The very land they live on gets involved. I mean, this is just some of the most powerful and shocking imagery you'll find. The land isn't just a passive stage where humans act out their dramas. In this view, it's an active moral agent. It has a physical, almost biological, and violent reaction to the corruption of the people living on it. So let's just break down the logic of verses 24 through 28. It's a clear cause and effect. First, these forbidden acts defile the people. Second, that defilement pollutes the very ground they walk on. Third, the polluted land itself rejects them, it forces them out. And finally, that becomes the ultimate warning. What happened to the people who were here before you? It can happen to you too. And the final two verses, 29 and 30, they just wrap it all up with a final, sober warning. The stakes could not be any higher. For an individual who breaks these rules, the consequence is being cut off from the people. But for the nation as a whole, following the blueprint means survival. Defying it means getting expelled from the land itself. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We've just walked through this ancient, incredibly detailed blueprint for how to build a nation. And it really makes you wonder, right? In our own lives today, what are the non-negotiable rules, the core principles that we use to build a life of meaning and purpose? What's in your blueprint?